Welcome everyone, my name is Joe Orefice. I'm the Director of Forest and Agricultural Operations at the Forest School at the Yale School of the Environment. This video is going to cover tapping techniques for maple sugar production, and it's sponsored by the USDA's Acer Access program. Now, when to tap is always a question maple producers have. And there's traditional dates. Some folks will say March 1st, some will say February 1st, or depending on where you are in the range of sugar maple. It does depend when the traditional date was. But really what you're looking for on when to tap is a weather forecast that's going to show a freeze-thaw cycle. So frozen nights, warm days. And that's going to be what triggers the pressure differential in the tree for sap to actually flow. If you tap too early in the year, such as in the fall or midwinter, your tree hasn't converted its starches to sugar yet, and you're going to have fairly low sugar contents. If you tap too late, you may miss early runs of sugar. And so oftentimes producers in the Northeast are tapping in February or March. Some bigger producers tap as early as January because that gives them enough time to put in 40,000 taps. So it's just a factor of timing and manpower. But if you're going to tap earlier, let's say you're going to tap mid-January, which is when we're filming this right now, mid-January, you want to be very careful, and you want to make sure that you are using sanitized spouts, because the problem with tapping too early is you start the process of tap hole closure sooner. And tap hole closure is conducted by bacteria building up in the tap hole. So if you tap too early, those tap holes aren't going to produce later in the season. And so there's a balance of when do you start. But typically, the best time to tap is sometime in February, right before a period of freeze-thaw cycle. So one of the things you need to do to collect sap, right, is you need to have spouts. And spouts have come a long way in history. Well, this is a collection of spouts my father gave me that I mounted on a piece of tap hole maple, and it's showing different spouts through the years. I mean, some of these spouts are as old as mid-1800s, including this cast iron one up here. And it kind of goes, in general, trend to more modern spouts, ending with the one I'm holding, which is the most modern spout. But if you're going to be using any sort of metal spout or spile, those are different terms that are synonymous, you really want to think about what you're trying to achieve. If you are using a metal spout to hold a bucket, well, you're probably going to go with something like this, which is a modern stainless steel spout with a hook on it, which can hold your bucket. So if you're looking for something really traditional, that may be a way to go. This is another modern spout that'll hold the bucket. But if you're really trying to be better for your trees, you might want to think about a more modern spout. This is a 5/16 seasonal spout, so it's replaceable. This also uses a 5/16 hole in the tree, whereas many of these older spouts, like even this plastic one, these are using 7/16 diameter holes, which is a much bigger hole, and it actually doesn't give you much more sap yield, but it takes a lot longer for the tree to heal over. So you're better off going with a 5/16 diameter spout or a 1/4 inch spout, which are also available, as opposed to these older 7/16 holes, which are going to take longer to heal. The other thing with some of these older spouts, if you're going to use a metal spout, try to clean them at the beginning of the year. If you reuse them without being clean, including the plastic spouts, you're going to be introducing bacteria into your tap hole right away, and it's bacteria that's going to slow down your sap flow. So you don't want to use a dirty spout and put it into a clean hole in the tree, because you're just going to start the bacterial closure process much faster. So always have clean spouts. I really suggest reusing seasonal plastic spouts, replacing seasonal plastic spouts if you're going to tap. So you just put a new one on every year. But if you want to be more traditional and you want to stick with a bucket and a metal spout, just make sure you clean them. You can do that with as easy as boiling them in water. Don't boil the plastic. The plastic spouts you should just replace. There are a few pros to using some of these plastic seasonal spouts. In some cases you can wash them with hot water and reuse them if you're not going to, if you're just doing a small number of taps. But you can also easily just replace them. But some pros of these are you can adapt them to a lot of different sap collection systems. They're made to connect to tubing. And you could also run this tubing down to a bucket on the ground, which is a lot easier to collect from and a lot nicer of a situation than hanging buckets on the tree, but it doesn't have that traditional look that everybody likes. The other nice thing about these seasonal spouts is you can get them in different colors. So if you're thinking about expanding your operation, you have a number of different employees, you want to see who's doing a good job and who hasn't, who's watched this video and who wasn't paying attention when they watched this video. You can actually get different colored seasonal spouts. And those different colors you can assign to different employees. So I could have clear, another employee could have green, another employee could have red, and therefore you can always see who's doing a good job in the woods and who may need some improvement. The other nice thing about these seasonal spouts is because they're clear, you can see sap going through them. And so if you have a vacuum system, you can actually see where you have functioning spouts or where you may have problems. So I really am a fan of these. They're very inexpensive. They're like 20 cents a piece, and they're very practical in terms of using for tapping trees. So one of the questions you got to answer if you're going to start tapping maples is where on the tree do you tap? And there's different things out there. There's some old sort of farmer knowledge, like, well, you always tap on the south side because that gets the sun. But in reality, what you're thinking about when you're tapping is not south versus north side. The question is, where are you going to get clear white wood? Because when we're tapping a tree, we want to make sure that we're tapping into clear wood. So I have a piece of tap hole lumber here. And this tap hole lumber shows a number of different areas where old tap holes were placed in the tree. And you can see, once the tap hole's in there, you get these streaks of what we call inactive wood. So this is reactionary heartwood. This is wood that's no longer conducting sap. And so what I don't want to do is I don't want to put a tap hole in the same area where it's going to connect with one of these. We can actually see that happening here and here. What happened is one of these created a streak and the other one tapped into that inactive wood, and that year that producer wouldn't have gotten any sap out of that tap hole. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're tapping into areas of clear white wood so we get nice sap flow and we're not tapping into something that's going to be inactive. So that's one of the things we need to think about when we consider where to tap in the tree. So if we're thinking about where to tap and we want to make sure we don't tap into inactive wood, one of the things we need to do is we need to look for old tap holes. And sometimes those can be hard to find. On this old maple here, this has a couple of old tap holes, which probably date back, could even be over 50 years, maybe even 100 years. But we see a hole right here in the bark. This is an old tap hole. It's on the outer bark. It's not on the inner bark. So it's very likely that this tree has grown past this, and I could tap in this same area. But that's something I'd be careful of. Down here is an even older one. This is a really big tap hole. This is probably from one of the old cast iron spouts in the early 1900s, maybe even older. But this is an old tap hole. These are old ones. These aren't necessarily ones that we can't re-tap. But if I wanted to avoid it, what I could do is I could go over an inch or two and up at least 8 inches or down at least 8 inches. So what you can see with this very old tap hole is something that's pretty clear of a closed up tap hole. You have what looks like a cat face, so a circle, but it's healed over with a small seam in the middle, and that's a tap hole that's well healed over, but you know where it is because of that real clear pattern of a circular heel and then a seam in the middle. So I encourage you, if you're going to tap a fresh sugar bush, one that hasn't been tapped before, to establish a tapping pattern. So if this was my hole from the previous year, my tapping pattern would then go 2 inches over, 8 inches down. The next year I might do the same thing, go 2 inches over, 8 inches down. But then I'll go up, up, and then over. So you end up with this zigzag pattern of your tapping. And that way when you go to find your spouts the following year, you know where they're going to be at. And you also start to ensure that you're not just tapping in inactive wood because you have tap holes all over the place in no set pattern. So I encourage you to start doing a tapping pattern. Here's an example of a tap hole from last year, and this was a 5/16 hole, so it's a small diameter. It's healing over nice. Knowing that this hole was here and that it's a more recent hole tells me if I want to tap this tree now, I probably want to go 8 inches below it, which may be a problem because that may put me below the snow, and so you want to think about that. You don't want to do taps to get buried in the snow. Or I could go 1 inch or two over and about 1 foot up. So that's another option on this tree. But one thing you can do with these old tap holes to keep an eye on where they are, if you want to be a lot faster in the spring, is when you pull your spouts, just put a dot of paint, tree marking paint, next to those holes, and then the next year you'll be able to find it a lot better. One of the things I'm looking for in this tap hole is that it healed over. It gives me an idea of how well my tree's growing. This tap hole is completely healed over in 1 year, which tells me that this tree is healthy and growing and able to continue to produce sugar for me. If your tap holes are not healing over in a year, then you need to think about the health of your trees and are there other things you can do. So another thing you want to think about when you're choosing tap hole location is being careful of seams or crotches where two different stems come together. These areas are not good locations to put a spout because you're most likely to get into deactive wood, and it's also not going to be very productive because the vascular tissue is going in different directions. In fact, on this tree we can see where that seam has caused some problems for that tree. So we tend to want to avoid these. If I were tapping this I would try to go somewhere over towards one of these main stems instead of being somewhere in the seam. All right, so we're gonna drill a hole here. A couple of things. I have my cordless drill. These are really nice 20-volt drills. They get replaceable batteries. You can tap all day. Drill bits, buy a specific tapping drill bit for maple. They're not the same as any bit you get from the store. The angle is different. So get one made for tapping maple trees. They're not cheap, but you take care of them. Keep them clean, keep the tip clean as you go through the woods. That way you're not introducing fungi and bacteria into the tree as you tap it. You find the right location where you want to put the hole, and then what you want to do is you want to make sure you're square with the tree. You're not trying to put your drill bit on an angle, because that's going to make an oval hole, and that oval hole won't seal. So you really want to go perpendicular with the wood. And so if the wood here is going vertical, so I want to be perpendicular as I go in. And what I'm going to do, if there's big flaky bark, I can flake that off. But I'm just going to go in 2 inches, and then I'm going to come out. But I'm not going to wiggle it around. I'm just going to go in and out. And that's it. One thing I'm doing as I'm drilling in, I'm looking to make sure I got all clear white wood, which I did. So it's nice clear wood, and therefore I know that's going to be a productive tap hole. All right, what I'm going to do here is something very simple. I'm going to hammer this spout into the tree, but I'm going to do it in a way that's thoughtful and decisive. So I have my tap hole. It's perpendicular. It's not, I didn't drill it on an angle, so it's not oval. I check it, make sure it's clean. This one's actually clean. There's no wood chips in there. If there's wood chips in there, I can take a little wire and pull those wood chips out. But in this case, it's clean. And so what I'll do is I'll just tap this in, and you can hear it, and when I hit it, it's still going in. But eventually what's going to happen is it's going to get snug, and then my hammer will bounce back. See that? And it didn't, the sound changed. That's how I know it's done. I know it's in all the way. I don't need to hammer this too far. This is nice, it's snug, it's sealed, it's going to make a good vacuum seal, and if I'm on gravity, it's not going to let any sap leak beyond it. So here I'm going to demonstrate a problem when you drill into wood that isn't clear all the way through. So you see, I'm getting nice white chips from clean wood. But at the end of this, I got into rotting wood. And that rotting wood's going to be a problem. Not only if you're under vacuum, you're going to lose your vacuum pressure. It's going to pull air through that. And if you are on gravity, as that thaws, if it has any moisture in it, it's going to come out into your sap, and you're going to get this yellow, just yellow water that's essentially leaching out from this rotting wood. So not a good thing. If you drill a hole like that, you'll have to drill a new hole somewhere else. Or skip that tree for the year, because you don't want to put too many holes in it. So that's a real concern, making sure you're always getting clear white wood. And if you start getting some of this, you want to think about your tap hole location a lot better. This is the same type of thing you'll get if you tap into inactive wood. You'll see it won't be this nice clean white, it'll be this brown. All right, so another thing you don't want to do with your spout is you don't want to hit it in too hard. So here I have my plastic seasonal spout, and I'm going to hit that in. That's where I normally would stop. The sound changed, it bounced my hammer back. But now I'm going to be real ambitious, right? So I'm going to really make sure that's in there. Well, now I have a problem. One, I didn't put my tubing on first, so now I'm not gonna be able to get it on. But I also bent that spout, and I really hit it in there that I won't be able to pull it back out. And I possibly did some damage to the tree. Here's another thing you don't want to do. You want to make sure when you're hitting your spout that you're hitting it straight on, because if you hit it on an angle, or even just catch the side, you can crack it. And that crack can sometimes go right into the spout and there'll be a vacuum leak. So you always want to make sure you hit it right on. So with these metal spiles, you really only need to hit them in hard enough that they're going to hold a bucket. And if you keep hitting them in harder, what you probably will actually do is split the wood. So the wood will split and crack along the vertical axis, which this is a branch, so it's got to turn 90. But if you hit them in too much, it'll actually crack the wood. And we can see that starting to occur in this seam over here, and we can see a little bit occurring over here in this seam, where the wood, not only is the spile getting damaged, but the wood's starting to crack. And what's going to happen is, instead of having a nice seal around your spout, you're going to get sap flowing out of that crack and down the tree. So don't hit these in too hard. Not to mention, you're going to ruin your spiles if you're going to be able to get them out at all. So size of tree and how many taps per tree is always a question that comes up. I think a general rule, most trees, 1 tap per tree. That's really simple. If you start doing more than 1 tap per tree, you're really going to either run out of clean areas to tap in future years, so you're going to tap that tree out, if you will, or you're probably going to actually reduce its sugar content and its vigor through time. So for most trees, 1 tap per tree. If you have a very large tree, somewhere upwards of like 24, 26 inches in diameter, then I think you can justify 2 taps per tree, but never more than 2. Anything more than 2 is really not going to be good for your trees. A tree like this tree is about 16 inches in diameter. This would be a 1 tap tree, and if we look up, it has a nice healthy wide crown, which is where the sugars are being produced. And so trees with nice wide crowns will likely be the trees that heal over best and be your best producers into the future. So this tree is an example of what I'd consider a bare minimum to tap. It's about 10 inches in diameter. You could tap this tree. There's a real chance that tapping this tree will reduce its growth and not let it ever get to be the big, heavy sugar producer that you want it to be. And that's mostly because of the crown. So it's not always about the diameter, it's about the crown too. So this tree, if we look up at its crown, is very much competing with other trees around it. If I really wanted this to be a producing tree for me, I would be better off cutting one of the trees around it, giving it more space to grow, letting it grow for 3 or 5 years before I tap it. So that way, when I do start tapping it, it doesn't affect it as much, and it can continue to grow and expand and produce sugar. One of the things to keep in mind in the sugar woods is that the smaller diameter trees are going to produce less sap, and that sap is also typically going to have a lower sugar content. So tapping a tree like this, while it may increase your tap count, it probably isn't going to increase your production very much, and definitely in the long term, you're better off caring for this tree, growing this tree out, than tapping it today. So some producers, they want to have the most taps, or they might pay somebody by the tap to install a tubing system. And what will happen is small trees like this, in those situations, will get tapped. This is too small. It's about 8 inches in diameter. It's just not big enough to be productive. And don't start tapping it, because what you're going to do is you're going to tap it out and you're going to make it a tree that's never all that productive. And being a small diameter tree with a smaller crown, you're only going to get a little amount of sap with lower sugar content. Let it grow, give it space, and don't tap these smaller trees. And so if you're hiring someone to do some of your work in your sugar bush, make sure you give them a clear directive on size of tree to tap, because I've seen too many of these tapped and then reduce the ability of us to produce sugar into the future. This tree is a good example of one that could handle 2 taps. It's over 24 inches in diameter. It's got enough clean wood without a lot of branches. You could have enough tapping pattern to make it all the way around with 2 taps, right? Because it's twice the amount. and still come back around and have clean wood. Also, if we look up at the crown of this tree, it's a nice, big, healthy crown with a lot of room to grow. And so this tree is likely to be able to handle 2 taps. So 10 or 12 inches is your minimum for a single tap, and then 24 inches and up is your minimum for 2 taps, with 2 taps being your maximum. All right, so we're going to do a little thing here on comparing 2 trees. This is a sugar maple. It's about 14 inches in diameter. It's got a really nice bowl form. It also has a very nice crown. If we look up into the tree, it's a big, wide crown. It's got room to grow. This is my production tree. This is a tree that I'm sure to tap. I'll put 1 tap in it. I'll start my nice tapping pattern, and I'll be able to go all the way around the tree. And by the time I come back to the same spot 20 years from now, it will have grown out past my tap hole 2-3 inches of clear white wood, and I can tap in that same spot. And that's the idea, is that you want a big tree that's able to grow, so when you do finally go all the way around it with your tapping pattern, it's grown enough that you can start again and go on and continue to tap this tree for another 100, 150 years. All right, here's tree number 2 in a tale of 2 trees in the comparison. This tree is about 10 or 11 inches in diameter, and I could probably start tapping this tree. But what's going to happen here is if I start tapping this tree today without doing any forest management, what's going to happen is I'm going to tap it, and by the time I follow my tapping pattern around that tree and I get back to here, it may only be 5-10 years. And that tree may have only grown maybe half an inch in those 5 or 10 years, and I'm going to have to tap into deactive wood. So this tree, if I start tapping it now, I only get a limited amount of time to tap it, as opposed to being able to tap it into perpetuity. And the reason is this tree doesn't have room to grow. If I want to put on wood, which means I want to put on sugar, I need to give the tree room to grow. And the only way I can figure out if it has room to grow is to look up. And if we look up at the crown of this tree, you can see it's heavily competing with the trees around it. So I'm better off in the long term to give this tree more space and allow it to grow before I start tapping it. Thank you all for joining us on this video. I hope it was informative. I hope it helps you improve your tapping technique. Please reach out. We're here at the Yale Forests, happy to answer any questions. This is through our, as I mentioned at the intro, this is through our Acer Access grant. So we'll be offering a number of courses in person as well over the next 3 years. We'll have a follow-up Zoom session for anybody who wants to one-on-one chat and ask questions. And our contact info is also here. So please reach out.